But a doop boop boop boo doo doop doop. But a doop doop doo doo doo. Ah da da da. Bow. This is Ring of Fire. Welcome to Ring of Fire. I'm the birth wizard Emmy.
I'm Alex Barr, and we have a special guest today.
Sure do. It's the Doula Darcy. Everyone will put in a clappy. Yay.
Yay! We will not, because I don't know how to do that. That's the advanced level of video editing I do not know how to do.
There you go. We only keep it real and professional around here. So welcome to our podcast, Doula Darcy, or Darcy. We'll call you that. A moment ago, everyone missed it. I called her Miss Darcy because I felt compelled to let her know that I respected her, and that's all that came to mind was like my mom being like, "You call people Miss and Mister when you respect them." And I was like, Miss Darcy then.
That
cool.
cracks me up. I love it.
Great. Welcome to our podcast. And for everyone listening, we're doing guests where they've started in doula work and they evolve into something else. So Doula Darcy, or Miss Darcy, or Darcy, go ahead and tell us how you started in doula work and where you came from before.
So where I came from before was I was an advertising executive. I worked for 10 years after college in various ad agencies and marketing jobs, and I loved it. I thought it was exciting and cool. And I worked in Manhattan and another agency.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, this is my life.
Yeah.
And then I had a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
usually the plot twist.
A tale as old as time.
This is one of those stories. So I had my baby, and I was one of those that I was like, oh, I've had a successful career. I was good in school. I've worked hard and had a great life. So, I've heard being a mom is hard. I've heard having a baby is hard, but I'll be fine.
I'm harder and I'm tougher. So come at me, mom life. You don't know who you're tangling with.
I thought the same thing.
All of us do. All of us do.
I don't know if all of us do, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember so vividly thinking people are like, well, sleep now because you're going to be tired. And I was like, I pulled all-nighters finals week of college. I'll be fine. I was like, I did an all-nighter here or there and I survived. So, so that's how I went into motherhood.
Yeah. How'd it work out?
Well, I ended up with, after 20 hours of labor, a C-section, and then an infection after that had me back at the hospital, and then a raging case of postpartum anxiety and depression that I didn't realize was postpartum anxiety and depression when I was having it. So, just kind of a crappy experience. And then I was like, well, you know what would fix this? Having another baby. I was like, let me try this again.
Telling me my story for a moment. Sorry.
I was like, let me just, here's a couple things I didn't do the first time. I'm going to try this again 20 months later. And that was hard too. Mm-hmm. And then I mean, looking back, so these guys are teenagers now. And looking back, this really was my thought process. I was like, you know what? I thought I wanted 6 kids, but I was like, wow, this is hard. I'm like, I'm going to have a third. And this time I remember saying to a friend, this time I'm just going to do it right. I don't even know what that meant, but anyway. This is the question you asked me.
What does doing it right look like? At least you at that point in time.
What it meant to me at that point in time was just enjoy it, honestly, and not be friggin' miserable.
I love that response.
I
love that response. Yeah.
I couldn't have given you that response at the time.
Of course not. But
now looking, that's what it was. So I had 3 C-sections, 3 babies in 4.5 years. So
wow.
I was, depleted, exhausted, overwhelmed, all of it. And I became obsessed with tracking people down who I knew were pregnant. Like my mom would be like, oh, I ran into, your friend from high school's mom and she's having a baby. She lives in California. I'd be like, I'm going to find her on Facebook and I am going to tell her, that this is going to be hard and, give her some advice. So I was basically out there being a postpartum doula before I had any training or knew what those words were.
That's so cool though. We always talk about how like doulas are usually doulas before they step into the work.
Yes. Yeah. I always say, I think most doulas feel like they were born to do this. Like it's like a sacred service that just comes to you, whether you're literally born with it or because of an experience that you had.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then one day, so at the time I was working, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Zanga.
Yes.
A big blogging. Did you have a Zanga blog?
I had a Zanga. You're around the right crowd right now.
Yes, I love it.
I had a Zanga.
Oh my God, that's too funny. So I was working for Zanga, reading all these blogs, and in one blog I was supposed to be working, but I was like over commenting on all the new moms, like, you're doing a great job. This is so hard.
Love that.
Again, being a postpartum doula. And then I saw the words postpartum doula in somebody's blog and I was like, oh, wait, what is this? I was like, that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to do. So I took, a training, became certified, and then I worked as a postpartum doula for 10 years. I just loved it. But one thing I realized was that advertising career really helped me be a successful doula. It really helped me get my business out there, start working, getting lots of clients, and just being able to be a doula because I knew how to market myself.
Yeah. So because I've talked about this on other spaces before, that in my particular doula training, I was the only one who showed up with a name ready to go, my branding colors, the idea of like how I would market myself. What do you think is the gap there though, of why doulas don't come into this work understanding that it's a business and that they have to have those like things set up for themselves with how they're going to advertise versus the ones who probably know that from the get-go? What do you think is the gap?
Well, I think the ones who know that from the get-go are few and far between.
I didn't know that. No. I literally thought it was like people need this service, people are looking for this service, like clients are abundant. Like I literally did not think about the marketing side of it, the business side of it. I looked at it more as like, oh, this is a service that needs to happen and people need, so they'll know it. Like everybody's looking for a doula.
Well, and I think it's so important and vital. And I think, so for me, even with a business and marketing background, like I went into doula work and I was just more focused on like the change that needed to happen in the world and the people I was going to help from having a bad experience and the passion for the work. I never just even took it 5 steps forward of like, well, I can't go at the time on monster.com and like apply for a job. Like it did, that literally never crossed my mind until I finished my training. I was so pumped. I got home, woke up the next day and I was like, well, wait a minute. Where are the pregnant people?
What do I do?
What do I do?
I have to find clients now? Wait, no, nobody said that I had to do that. Like,
yeah, it's like no one ever mentioned that.
Yeah, and that was my perspective of it too, was like I kind of viewed it as like an activist role first and like didn't think like, oh, I will also have to like make money and like survive.
Yeah.
I think that's so funny.
I'm glad that I'm not alone.
You are not alone. I mean, Emmy, you told me in a message before this that you showed up to your training with your LLC, and I was like, I've never heard of anyone else that has done that. I actually, right before this call, I was speaking to a group of trainees, and I do that a lot, and just now I'm a coach for doulas to finish my story. But I think and the reason I became a coach for doulas is that this is a thing. Like,
yes,
you're called to doula work for whatever reason, like your birth was awesome and you want more people to experience that, or your birth was shitty, or your postpartum experience was shitty. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes,
of
definitely.
course.
We love swearing here.
Okay, great. And it's like you're coming at it, like you said, Alex, from an activist role. You're not thinking about like, oh, wait, I need to structure this like a business and get clients and pay my mortgage. And so that's what I've been doing the past several years, is just seeing this huge, well, it started in two ways. One, I'll never forget, I was standing in a client's living room. I was answering her questions, and I just had this moment of like, oh, I have answered this question 100 million times. Like, every new parent has the same standard questions that I say over and over. And I'm like, God, I know there's probably other families in this neighborhood on this street that would benefit from me. Like, at first I was like, how could I get them to come over here to this house? And it like planted the seed of like, how could I help more people? As a doula, I'm trading hours for dollars. I'm only helping one person at a time. When I know there's so many other people out there that need this. So then that turned into me realizing there's so many doulas out there who have gotten the training. They have the empathy, they have the compassion, they have they got the sauce. They got the sauce. They just don't know how to get the parents to find them. Yeah. And the only thing that's the bridge between that is just marketing, like getting the word out about your doula business. So I was like, wait a minute, if I could help doulas get the word out about their business through marketing, I can help more people access doula care. So
that's awesome. I love that.
I truly, truly love that, because I found myself in a similar spot recently where I had the same thing where I was like, why is it that so many doulas reach out to me asking about VBAC questions? Or why am I always being tagged in these places about VBAC or general cesarean? How can I make sure that they have those tools? And then I outsource it, essentially, is how I thought of it. So I think it's interesting.
Because it really is just like in our local groups, it really just is Emmy. Like, it really, like, and all of the local, like, Arizona groups, it's like anybody asks a question about VBAC, it's Emmy. There's nobody else. And I know other people do
have
VBAC,
that knowledge,
right? And they have that knowledge, but Emmy's the only person being tagged in those things.
Which I'll take as the like badge of honor. Like, I did hard work to be able to be known that way, but at the same point, my hope and my desire is that everyone can be tagged in that way. My hope and my desire is that I'm not the sole owner of that information, that everyone feels confident enough in sharing that information. So I think it's interesting that you spoke about this thing, and it gave me goosebumps hearing you say it, because I had the exact same, like, how do I get faster? Like, how do I make sure that this output is more, so more families are helped? Because that's ultimately
I had the similar thought, but that's why I pivoted to focus more on childbirth education. Because I was like, childbirth education has a lower cost of entry, right, than having a doula, and you can have a group class of 3 or 4 families, right? Like, it felt like this bigger thing. And then when I looked at it from like an equity standpoint, and like, if I give one family doula services, that's amazing, but I could give more families childbirth education classes who needed it. Like, it just was like, this is how I expand. But maybe I'm not confident enough to be like, let me teach other doulas.
But that's a very viable way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, like, we're all going to go about it in our own ways with our own skill set. So you guys started a podcast. That's another way to get your message out to more people. I mean, and Alex, you're absolutely right. Like, teaching childbirth ed to a room full of 15 people is more impact than being in the living room of one person. So you're doing it.
Yeah.
So
look at Doula Darcy doulaing you.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah,
I'm doing
love
it.
that. I love that.
But it's true. And I think this is kind of like just the natural evolution as you're a doula. Once you are doing it for a while, you start to want to, mentor and, grow and help more people. So we are all just going to go about it in different ways. And that's fine.
Who did you go into a mentor role knowing that's what you were about to do? Or was it kind of this like, oops, I guess I'm a mentor now? Like,
well, no. And I wanted to say this before. I mean, so not to just dive in with some marketing tips.
No, please. I love that, by the way. I'm the only person that will like PM people and be like, hey, so your tagline sucks. Can I just give you some suggestions of some other taglines?
She really does that. And she does it for
really
free.
Hurts.
She does it for free. I had to have the conversation with her that like, Emmy, you're helping people find names. You're helping people write copy. Like that is a job. You're doing it for free. And like people get paid a lot of money to be copywriters. And she had no idea that was a job.
I don't know.
It is. Yeah.
It's just, it hurts when I see it. And I'm like, oh man, I see where that could go. And it would be so good. You know what? I'm just going to give you this one just so I stop seeing that really bad tagline come across my feed. Like
she helped me come up with my tagline. So
I love it. Well, you should join my Facebook group, the Doula Marketing Group, because people are always asking for free advice in there. And
I love it.
And I didn't mean that to sound like bad. No, everybody's in there.
Free stuff all the time.
Yeah. Everybody's in there sharing and collaborating and getting ideas. So I think that's awesome so for me, I'm so old that back in my Zanga days and ad agency days, like the internet was so new and there wasn't social media yet. So if you had a small business, if you were a doula and you wanted to get the word out about your services, you had to like buy a radio ad or pay for a newspaper ad or pay to get on local cable access. And it was a lot of money. So I always am saying to doulas, I hear and I get it. Like we all love to hate social media, but you can post, you have something to say about childbirth ed or birth at your local hospital or I don't know, pregnancy tip, like post on Facebook. And I hear people are like, oh, but only 35 people saw my post. That is 35 people.
Right.
If you go back to the analogy of me, one person talking one-on-one in a living room versus I can post on Facebook and 35 people see it. Like, yeah, that's huge. I'm helping
Correct.
a lot more people.
For sure. And like people forget like some like videos that I've made even where I'm like, it got like 900 views, like where I get sad. I'm like, that's 900 people. If I were to sell tickets to hang out with people for 900, that would fill a cute little, a bar or two to like hang out with them. Right. Like that's a big reach. So you are totally right. Do you find that there's a big resistance to social media still with people, or do you find it in certain age brackets? I don't mean to call people old, but I find it's old people.
Well, but there's plenty of young people.
I think it's young people too. I see people who are, I know are younger than me being like, I have to make a reel. TikTok is for the kiddos. And like, like people are very resistant. I felt like I was resistant, but that came from like insecurity in my situation. I was insecure about putting my face out there and putting my voice out there and like, what are people going to say? And it was like the opposite of where you're like, oh my God, only 35 people saw me. I'd be like, oh my God, 35 people looked at me. So it's been a really hard like evolution to like get in front of my phone and like talk to it and know that people are going to hear it, or this podcast. I'm like, I talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, you said that on one of your episodes. And I'm like, you listen to that? Like, it's really like, it's hard to not be uncomfortable with like that many like views,
Right. And I think that holds a lot of people back from ever making one post, like that imposter syndrome. Well, who am I to talk about whatever on social media, or just that fear of putting yourself out there. And I mean, I see that a lot, and it doesn't, that doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. That's just, some people are a little more prone to that than others. And and it's normal. And it's a lot of people. And I always say, like, it's weird to like, sometimes I'm like, I'm in my office for an hour talking into this phone, like making video. I mean, it's weird, it's awkward, but for me, I like to tell people I'm a huge introvert. You'd never know it, but I'm pretty shy. But my passion for birth work and postpartum doula support, I remember like having a talk with myself, like, okay, if you're going to quit the corporate career and you're going to do this doula thing, like, this is what's it's going to take. Like,
we're fucking gonna doula it.
Yeah. I was like, I have to post on Facebook. I have to get out in my community and meet the other birth workers. And my favorite quote about marketing is from Michael Hyatt. Okay. Is that his name? Yeah, Michael Hyatt. And he says, marketing is really about just about sharing your passion. And I love that, because I say I help doulas with marketing, and I see people be like, oh, are you like doing sleazy ads? And,
people have a negative view of marketing for sure.
But when you think of marketing as about sharing your passion, it gets so much easier. I go to a neighborhood cocktail party and I just like kind of stand on the wall, like, oh, I don't know what to say. But you put me in a room with a bunch of other birth workers, I could talk all night. You drag me, I'm the last one out of the room. I can talk forever, because that's where my passion is. So if you're thinking, if you think of networking in your community as sharing your passion with other people who have the same passion you do, and marketing yourself on social media and email, whatever, is that you're just sharing your passion for what it is you believe in and what you do, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, I think
I love that piece of advice.
Yeah. And one of my questions actually was going to be like, do you feel like it's hard to keep up with how much social media changes? Because especially if you talk about starting in like blogs, like so long ago, like not so long ago, but you know what I mean? Like to think about like how slowly
it was a while ago.
How slowly that changed to like how quickly this stuff is changing. Like people will see like stuff change like overnight because of an Instagram update or whatever, right? Or like now, like people are trying to decide where to put their time, and like, should I stop doing static posts? Should I be doing reels? Like, do you find like that's really difficult for people? Or like, I would love to hear your take on that.
I mean, I think you can start spinning your wheels and get into that analysis paralysis in so many areas. Like, what is the best website platform for me to make my doula business website on? And you start researching it, and then 6 months later, you still don't have a doula website. Yep. You should have just picked one and gone with it. And the same, what's the best? Should I be doing reels or IGTV or blogs or this or that? What's the best thing for me to do? And then, next thing you know, it's been 2 weeks, you haven't put anything out into the world. So
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Oh my God, everybody is. So I always say, I mean, that's probably the number one question I get. Like, how do you hack the Instagram algorithm, and what do I do on TikTok? And at the end of the day, all the social media platforms, don't even worry about what the new algorithm fad is. At the end of the day, social media is always, all the algorithms are going to reward you for being social. They want you staying on their apps. So if you're on Facebook or Instagram and you're commenting and you're sending DMs and you're posting valuable content that, adds value or adds information to people's lives that they like and comment on, then the algorithm is going to reward you and support you. So, you can't just post on Instagram and then close the app and not go back until
and like
5 days later.
respond and like try to
Yeah.
interact more and things like that. I think
And
that's great. And I think that's what I see with people who do well. Like
Right.
people are like, oh, it's just like TikTok's so crazy. No, like you see them. They posted 12 times today. That's why their following is so huge, because they're using it consistently. And you're right, they're gonna reward who's spending time on their app.
Right. And so that also does not mean to say to be a successful doula, you have to post on TikTok 12 times a day. Like
For sure.
No, I would never. But
I always say you have to show up consistently, but not constantly.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that differentiation.
Yeah.
Fun fact about me, how I originally marketed, I told myself I was going to be as fucking annoying as possible, so no one could ignore me. So I was on every board, I was in every group, I was like everywhere. So that way, eventually my hope was that I could pull away and people would do the work for me. Right.
Yeah.
That was the plan, and it's kind of paying off. But I do really enjoy that consistency versus like what was it again that you stated? Constant. I love that.
But back to my other point, you were being social, hanging out in groups, answering questions, making connections, and just being seen.
Right.
And that is how you have success on social media. Right. So I always say social media is about connecting with potential clients. It's also about networking in your community. The other birth workers saw you doing that and they're like, oh, Emmy. Ooh, who is this Emmy? Like, we got to watch out. We should meet her.
You know, what's funny with you saying watch out, like always, I'm like a true Hufflepuff at heart. I don't care what that last episode said. You guys need to watch that. But I'm a true Hufflepuff at heart. I am always about like sharing information and being like the truest, kindest soul. So I do think it's funny though, because I did get that after a little while of like, oh, well, I don't want to ask you questions. You seem so scary. Kind of how I interacted with you at the beginning of this, of like, it's Miss Darcy. Like, I think it is easy though, in that imposter syndrome of like interacting and being social, almost being like, oh my God, it's them. Like,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, well,
and I, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's how I started when I got into birth work, was reaching out to other birth workers. So I was in the groups like, who wants to meet? Who wants to have coffee? Who wants to do a doula date? Like, because I had gone from working in an industry where I saw people all the time. I was in the service industry and was literally like, okay, I need breaks from people, to like, now it's just me and my kid. Like, I need interaction. And if I'm going to do this job, I got to find people who like I can like be with. And that's how I feel like that's part of why I've been able to kind of still be here, right? Because a lot of the people that I went through training with never picked it up. Even some of the people that I first interacted with when I first, was working on my certifying births and stuff like that, I don't see anymore. So I feel like I've been able to like hold out a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's the key. That's the number one thing I tell people to do, is reach out, network in your community with the other doulas, first and foremost, and build those connections. Now looking back, as a doula for 11 years, my best friends are other doulas that I built friendships with, but that started out as network, like, let's go have coffee. Let's, they're my like ride or die people now. And so never mind all the business we've passed back and forth to each other over the years. I mean, that's how.
Do you think people are afraid to like interact with other doulas? Like, do you think it's like maybe like a competition type thing? Because I do see like some people are like absent. Like I hear someone's a doula, or I see someone posting, I'm like, I have never seen you in a doula group. Like, I really haven't like seen like you with other doulas. No.
Yeah. I think, at first I thought your question was about being nervous to reach out to other doulas. And I think that totally exists. And I think especially because it's hard. I hear people say all the time, like, well, I did email the other doulas and, it's been 3 days and they haven't gotten back to me. And I'm like, well, maybe they're at a 3-day birth, or maybe they're sleeping off a birth, like you, or maybe they're busy, don't take that as they don't want to talk to you. Like, reach out again in a couple weeks.
Be annoying.
I know,
Right.
but I mean, God, we all have kids. We're all doing the best we can. There's certainly
running
emails
small businesses, right?
Right.
Like,
So
because ultimately that's what we're doing.
But I think also it's important, and it's been interesting now doing this and talking to doulas all over the country and all over the world, really, that it's like there's pockets of really nasty doula communities in some areas, and then other areas where it's a great doula community. And I just think you've got to reach out to doulas and find the people. It comes down to mindset, the people that have like an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. You want to connect with doulas that believe in collaborating, not competing. And I always encourage people, and this is something I did, because when I started, there was a bunch of birth doulas, but there was only like 1 or 2 other postpartum doulas. And so coming at it from a marketing mindset, I was like, okay, I have to establish myself as her competition and that I'm better. And then I was like, God, I was like, I have questions about like how to structure my payments and the order of consultation and interview and all that. And I'm like, I really kind of want to just call her and ask her. And so she's one of my best friends now, and we have a great relationship. But I lost my train of thought.
No, you didn't, because
okay.
I think you're making a great point. That's how a lot of us start up, right? Of calling the other person, being like, hey, they didn't teach us this part in the training,
right?
And it's that other doula who steps up, and we talk commonly how this work is actually ancestral knowledge being passed along. So your point is essentially you're continuing that mindset around this work, and I think that's pretty incredible.
Because you can't do this on your own.
No.
Did you remember
and another
your thought?
the thing I was going to say is before I called my friend Krista Malte, I was like, okay, let me just think about this. And I like literally got out a piece of paper. There's 3 hospitals within a 30-minute radius of me. I called them. I found out how many babies were born at each one in a year. And it was like 1,000. And I was like, okay, there's 1,000 babies and there's 2 of us. Like, we don't need to compete. There's plenty. So I always am encouraging doulas. I don't care where you live. There's more babies than there are doulas. So you all can have plenty of work, especially if you collaborate together and build each other up instead of tearing each other down and coming at it from a competitive scarcity mindset.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Did you ever mess around with, I hate even saying it that way, with birth, or did you only do postpartum? Is that where like your love lies?
My love does certainly lie with postpartum. That's where my passion is. I mean, I always say like birth is cool. It's a miracle. I think it is cool, but I don't have that deep calling to go be at births. I'm more of a, like, I always say, let's show up when the shit really hits the fan. And, you're 2 weeks in, the adrenaline's worn off, and, that's the stuff I really like.
What would you say makes a really good postpartum doula? What are some elements that make a good postpartum doula? Because I know we have people who listen who are like, maybe birth isn't for me. Maybe I should try out postpartum. What would be a thing where you're like, you might be a postpartum doula if like...
You might be a postpartum doula if you love sitting on someone's couch and just listening to their birth story and not saying anything, but just listening. And you might be a good postpartum doula if you love just, I call it like being in the shit. Like, tell me how shitty last night was because you were up 12 times. Like, tell me how much your partner's pissing you off because they get to go to work or pee with the door closed or, take a shower.
I love that.
I always say to my clients, like, I'm the one you tell the thoughts in your head. I'm the one you can say the thoughts in your head to out loud, and I'm not going to, you're not even going to faze me.
Right.
Yeah. I always say, I've been doing this for 10 years. I have heard it all. I had 3 babies. I've thought it all. Like, you can't shock me. And I love, it's been 10 years. I'm here for it. I love, just kind of holding space, I guess, for people as they make this massive transition that so many people want to brush under the rug or hurry along or, offer advice and, just make it better. I think a good postpartum doula is comfortable just sitting with it. And
do you still take clients as well?
Not so much, mostly because of COVID and mostly because now I'm just coaching full time. I have kind of like turned my business into an agency. So I have 3 other doulas that I'm handing off all the clients to. But I always say, that favorite clients of mine that are having their second baby or third baby, like I'll come out and do that.
For the ones who, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So,
and I think it's interesting, like you said, like they can tell you the thoughts in your head and you won't judge them, kind of thing. Because that's what I tell my birth client.
Yes.
I'm like, I promise you can't hurt my feelings. You could say the meanest things to me. I'm not going to take them personally. Like, you need someone to yell at in labor. I'm your girl.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of our role as a doula, like just kind of letting people feel their feelings, process their feelings, just live without that fear of, oh, what's she going to think of me? What's she going to say? How many hours of lecturing is this going to?
And I think that's the benefit of hiring someone to come in rather than relying on maybe your mother-in-law or your family member or anything like that. Like, I feel like that's one of the benefits of hiring someone is you are this like neutral party.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I say all the time, like, just because there's not that family baggage. I say all the time that, this has happened to me all the time. Like, I go to a client's house and they're like, oh, well, yesterday was a rough day. My mother-in-law was here and she said this. And I always give the example of like, I can come up the next day and say the exact same thing that your mother-in-law says. And you're like, that's a good idea, Darcy. But it like when your mother-in-law said it made you cry and, because it's not, I'm like a neutral.
There's like baggage with the
family. There's
yeah.
nothing. Yeah. So
she said the sauce wasn't good enough. Now all I can think about is our wedding day when I broke the sauce bowl by accident. And
right.
Whatever the story is that they're telling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or you're holding, you just did that diaper change wrong. And like, it's compounded on the back of 20 other suggestions. So
right.
Well, and so sorry, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is I think it's incredibly it points to someone else's upbringing when they're like, what do you mean your mom just won't come in and help you during postpartum? Right? Like, I'm glad you and your mom get along like that. My mom, she's not that lady. My mom will bring us groceries and she'll be like, you're doing good, kid. And then she bounced. Like, holding babies were not her thing, like doing the like talking through. My dad was that guy though. He would be like, let me hold the baby, you guys go rest, right? And I think that's important too, of like pointing out to people in those moments of like, maybe the postpartum doula is the better choice, because not only baggage, but like maybe the parent can't take off of work to come across the country or down the road to help you out. Like, that's a reality too.
And maybe just personality wise, I love that story. I mean, like, I love talking to my clients prenatally about creating a postpartum plan and thinking about those kind of things. Like, which one of your friends or family or whatever would be good at running errands and doing groceries? Which one is going to be good at coming over and holding the baby so you can shower? Which one can you be like, oh my God, my bathroom's disgusting, can you just clean it?
Right.
Thinking of who in your life excels at certain roles, and like kind of I encourage them to write it down, like make lists so that when you're home with the baby, you know who to call. And like, so Emmy, in your example, like your mom is not the one to call if you had a rough night and you just need a break, but your dad would be able to do that.
Yeah. And my mom's an awesome mom, but certain people,
we all have our strengths and our we all have our strengths and our weaknesses.
And she is awesome at buying groceries. She's the best. She always finds the best brands. Like they show up and I'm like, heck yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Go ahead, Alex, for your question.
Okay, I was gonna ask, because earlier you were talking about, like so many babies were born in this area, and that's 1,000 families and stuff like that. And this is a question that we ask a lot about, like, how do you, if you don't mind answering, get like people who don't know what doulas are to know that they need doulas, right? And that goes for birth or postpartum. Like most people have never heard of what this is. And if they have heard of it, they still don't know what it is.
Right.
So I feel like that is where a lot of doulas, and myself included, run into the issue of like, yeah, there's lots of people having babies, but like, who knows that they need this, or that they may, that this could be really helpful, or, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like we have to market ourselves, but then it's like we also have to market our role. Like people don't even know A, what we do, and B, that they need us. So it is hard and it is challenging. And I will say, when I first started out, people in my area were like, a doula, a what? And by collaborating with the other doulas in my area, I swear, by working together, we really were able to raise awareness of just general doula support by hosting events and classes and working together, and then another, social media. It's a great way, because it's free, to, when people are like, I don't know what to post about the role of a doula. Like teach people in your area what is you do, how you help, why it's important, why it's needed. That is how you can really, start spreading that awareness. It's so many people like have the great idea to like, oh, maybe I'll go give a free talk at the library, or, and that is great, but how are you going to get 20 people to come to the library on a Monday night to learn about doula care? It is so much easier to do some posts on social media. Go live on your Facebook page instead of going to the local library. And then then the other thing is it's recorded. It's always there. You can go back and refer to it.
And you can reuse that content and stuff like that.
Exactly. So, but I think, I hear that all the time, Alex. It's a great question. Of people are like, well, no one in my area knows what a doula is. Well, then that's a great way to network with other doulas, band together and start hosting doula teas, or, events where you're, teaching like childbirth ed style classes, or just talking about what a doula is.
I think that's a great idea. For sure. Like, I think that's and then you're not doing it by yourself. I think that's one of the things with social media that I feel I personally had a hard time with, is like, I'm doing this by myself. Like, there really isn't like somebody else to like help, like, here's this idea, let's film it together, let's do this, right? Until I found Emmy, and we have a podcast together, right? But I could see that being very like intimidating, right? Because you really are by yourself.
Oh yeah, right. And you're like, is this thing on? Like, is this even working? So
yeah, I have a background in theater. I love performing. I hate going live because I enjoy an audience to like interact with. That live thing where they're like emojis. I'm like, that's not like claps or like energy that I can feel off of y'all. Like I need
Right.
more. So I rarely go live because of that. I'll post a reel and be funny about it because I can see people's reactions, and also I also know I'm funny, so that helps.
Yeah.
I have to get over like being mortified. Like I have to get over the being embarrassed like thing. But I think I'm doing a good job. I'm
so much growth.
My social media, presence.
It's
I decided at the
popping.
beginning
You're
of the
doing
year
it.
to like do it, and I'm doing it. So.
Yeah.
What are like 3 tips, if we could like have you give a sampler of what you do as a coach? Like, what are the 3 things that you would like say as a coach you do for doulas?
Well, let me see. So I feel like I've said a lot of them already.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
I think so. I have like a membership program called My Doula Village, where it's a private Facebook group. We do weekly Zoom calls, kind of like this, and there's a bunch of training videos. So it's like there's like the actual like marketing knowledge that I teach. But a lot of it is really like coaching, like getting over imposter syndrome and, feelings of that you're not worthy of doing this and things like that. So that's what I like about that membership model is like, I can do both, and then you're with a group of other doulas. There's about 50 or 60 doulas in there. And so it's like, you have my mentorship, but you also have like this group of doulas cheering you on. And like you were saying, Alex, like you go post on social media and you're like, well, I don't know, what am I doing? But when you have a group of other doulas, whether it's in your local area or you join my membership, that you can be like, well, here's what I tried last week, or here's what happened with a client. Like I think as doulas, we need that support of just chatting with other doulas. And
it's honestly really funny to me that we're preaching community care to our clients, and then we see we're not building that community.
Yes.
Right. And I don't know what our local area looked like pre-COVID. It could be very different. I got certified and trained in the height of COVID, right? But I'm like waiting for the people to be like, doula meetup, let's go, and you just don't see it a lot,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're telling people that they need community and they need support and they need to call someone when they're postpartum and having a hard time. But like, you are also like seeking that community for yourself that could be so helpful.
Right. I draw comparisons all the time to between having a baby and starting a doula business, because you need the same things. You want like a mentor, you want a doula to show up and just be like, oh my God, help me figure this out. Just tell me what to do. Am I doing this right? You need a community of other people at the same stage. Like when you have a baby, you need other like new mom friends.
Yeah.
And as a doula, I think you need other doulas that are building their businesses. It just makes it so much better. I was going to say something else about community. Oh, the other thing is, don't even get me started on, to your point, Alex, I can't tell you the doula Facebook groups I've had to leave because the doulas are just tearing each other down and they're so nasty and it's awful. And I'm like, and you guys are like going out and going to births and supporting people and when they have a 3-day-old baby,
saying affirmations and doing the sweet things.
Right? Like,
and posting the photos of like, aren't they so empowered? And it's like, bitch, you were mean to me last week. You didn't empower me last week. Whatever, it's fine. You can do it to her, but not me. Like,
like, why is that? What is the deal? So
I think that's a good point. I really enjoyed, you did a post about you'll never make $1 million as a doula. and hearing that from a different doula. And I feel that's one of those ways that can be like a trying to discourage someone into the work and that scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And truly, is anyone in this work to make $1 million?
I know.
Like, there's a lot of things I could have done. This was not the one for the monies, guys. Like,
right.
But I heard that when I first started, like, you won't make money doing this. And I was like, I worked for the fucking Disney store, man. Like, I know I'm not going to make money.
I was making retail wages. I'm good.
As a manager, I was making $12 an hour, but I worked for the mouse. So like,
yeah.
Tell me something different, like,
right,
to get me out
of
here.
You're absolutely true. And like that post you're talking about was the first doula I called after I finished my training. That's what she said to me. And she was just, I was so fired up to be a doula. And then she's like, well, you're not going to make $1 million and it's really hard. And I was like, oh. And so my second call was my now friend Krista. But I remember thinking, like, I don't want to make $1 million. I just want to help somebody, like, not have the crappy experience that I did. Like, so I mean, I know
you're making people not have crappy experiences anymore and helping other people help people not make crappy experiences anymore. And that's through your own fortitude and like pushing
and that's
through.
Way more rewarding than having $1 million. I mean, I'd like both. But
right,
you know.
yeah. You know, it's still in the cards. You never know, man.
That's right.
Never know.
This might be my year that I make $1 million.
I'm manifesting it for you.
Yes.
This is the year.
But I think
it's. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it just comes back to that scarcity mindset that doulas kind of, you know, if you're thinking like, oh my God, there's only, you know, I have to have 3 births a month to make enough money. I better you know, you're not, I don't know. They're subconsciously like, well, I got to tear down the competition and rip them apart in the local Facebook groups. So I get my, you know, I don't know.
My cash, right?
My cash.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone's experienced it to a point. And I think it's really hard when maybe you were a part of a class and you see someone in the peer of your class doing so much better than you at the initial start. So the advice I hand out to people is treat networking and marketing as a garden. You're there to grow it and it's going to take time, but I promise it'll bloom. But the moment you think of this as hunting, you're going to fail because people can feel when you're hunting them. And they want nothing to do with it. They're like, ew, I don't like that feeling. I'm going to get out of here. Right. Yes. But doulas can feel it off of you. Clients can feel it off of you. Like they can feel that like, oh, cool. You want me for however much you're going to charge me. Never mind. Like
that.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like that desperation versus, or that chasing versus attracting.
Yeah. Which is like you talked about having that abundant type mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really helpful. And I even find it like, I think it's awesome to talk to you as someone who has done doula work for so long, because I feel it's very difficult to find people who have been doing it for very long.
Yeah.
You know,
I will say that's a benefit of postpartum. Like I can schedule my shifts and and with 3 little kids, I don't know how you can have little kids and be a birth doula. Like, so I think the burnout.
Emmy has 3 little kids.
Same question. There's, yeah, man. It's rough. Would not suggest, but here I am doing it because I love it so much.
Right. You find a way. Yeah.
I just love that you're like, would not suggest this.
Would not suggest. But I love it so much and I love being here and I love doing all of this stuff. And my hope is one day to evolve into the Doula Darcy kind of vibe, because my hope is honestly to treat doulas in such a loving way. And I hope to create those communities and those spaces. And I'm so appreciative of people like you who are doing it and setting that model, because I think it's so easy to forget how this has been a long time and people have been doing it for generations, right?
Right.
Yeah. And this business is here. It's not leaving.
Right. Yeah.
If anything, we need it more and more and more.
So much more.
Absolutely. Holy moly. Yeah.
Well,
I think that's all my questions. Did you have anything else, Emmy?
No, I was going to allow Miss Darcy here to go ahead and plug away and do her thing and
plug all the
advertise
things that you want
all the
doulas to
things.
hear.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to have you all join my free Facebook group, the Doula Marketing Group. I hang out in there a lot, and I'm always giving tips and stuff like that. It's a great place to find me, or on Instagram at the Doula Darcy. I am hanging out on Instagram a lot. And like I said, if you're searching for that community of doulas that will cheer you on, and I'm in there giving you marketing tips, reach out to me. You can join my doula village. You can find the link to it on my website, which is thedoulardarcy.com. It's only $49 a month. It is a deal.
Oh,
yeah, we
nice.
have guest experts every month. The website doula, social media experts, all geared toward marketing. We have co-working sessions, and I do coaching, and I have office hours where I'm just on Zoom for a couple hours. You can pop in and out with your questions. It's very cool, I must say.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
You should join.
You'll have you'll have to send me the links too, so that I can put them in the description. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Well, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came on. And thank you guys all for listening. And make sure you check out Doula Darcy. Until next time, I'm Emmy the Birth Wizard.
I'm Alex Barr.